Hello Reds, welcome along to All for United.
Hello and welcome to All for United with me, John Foster, MUFC. Joining me tonight is Natalie. How you doing, Nat?
I'm good, John. I'm good. Can't wait for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jessie, how you doing, Jessie?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. We'll introduce you properly shortly, but we just want to give the guests a bit of an idea of what we're going to be talking about today. A lot's happened over the last couple of days, to be honest. This time, like 4 or 5 days ago, we was crying out for information or announcements. And now everything's coming in one go, which we kind of expected, but there's still other things that we want to talk about as well. Thank you to all the 55 people who are currently watching. Please hit the like button. That's really appreciative. Thank you very much. So we're going to be talking about, obviously, Jane Ross leaving yesterday, Preston Heath today. We're going to be talking about Tooney regarding the Olympics team. I want to hear Jessie's thoughts on that one. We'll be talking about Sky, how they can help develop the game and grow the game and get that real fans engagement next season as well. And of course, all the names that's been bandied around regarding transfers in, we just kind of want to consolidate those names now and kind of focus on the ones that look like that's definitely going to be happening. So we'll be getting everyone's thoughts on that as well. Let's get a few comments on screen as well. Thank you very much. I know there's people waiting before the show even started. Karen, Jane, John, thank you for joining us every week. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Nat, we'll make a start on some of the announcements over the last 2 days. We'll do proper shows throughout the weekend. Tune in on Saturday where Ben and Matt will be talking about Jane Ross in a bit more detail. Monday night, we've got an American guest on and a few others talking about Preston Heath. But it's only fair with today's announcement that we will go through a few things. Jane Ross, 50-50 for me. Kind of expected, but also wasn't expected in a way. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, kind of. I don't know where it came from. I think it's just they just came out when she signed. I heard it was a 3-year deal, so I thought, oh, someone's going to have to buy her. But then it said she's coming to the end of a deal. So obviously it was 2-year. It's expected. She played all the games in the first year, got about 4 goals. I don't think fans were that, shouting on the rooftops. But no, she did well. Obviously played a lot less games this season, and obviously she's going somewhere now to sort of make, I don't know, get that last few seasons, or maybe she'll go on and have a long career. Who knows? But I just think we're at the stage now where we want to be pushing on Champions League, and I think either the way that her style or our style didn't fit her. I'm sure Matt will go into more detail about it, but I just think, yeah, it's right. Thanks for everything. In a way, even Tobin and Kristen, they came in a COVID year. Tobin especially, I mean, she's just different levels, and that's the level where we want to be at. That's what we want to see week in, week out. So, unfortunately, yeah, Tobin and Kristen not stayed, but for me, it's giving us that taste, that buzz, that excitement. You want that commitment, that dedication, that passion, and it's not just all them kind of words. It's she's got the skill, she's got the talent, she's got the attributes to Tobin Heath, bang. And that was the one I thought Kristen Press was going to do better, but Tobin Heath just said to everyone, I'm here, I'm the best player from America, yeah? So for me, I'm gutted, but all 3 are expected in a way.
Nat, we'll just stick with Jane Ross first. Do you think like some of the fans' expectations of Jane was a bit too high? Was she ever going to be was she ever going to be our leading goal scorer? Because part of me feels like I need to defend her in a way, because I don't think she's brought into kind of banging a load of goals like she used to, because there's been other players that's kind of like LJ and Jess who was always going to be ahead of her. But on the flip side, when you bring someone in with that quality and some players go and she's the one that replaces them, you do kind of expect a bit more, don't you, I guess?
Yeah. At the time, right? I remember at the time, John, and I don't like to go on about this because then people say, but I remember at the time I said, we shouldn't be getting rid of Ebony for Jane Ross. I said it, and I said that's the one that we're going to regret. And lo and behold, look at Ebony smashing it in Racing Louisville, and yeah, Jane Ross is leaving. So I don't like to say it, and at the time I was absolutely distraught. I couldn't believe it, but I don't know. You just got to say thank you for everything. But I know you want me to be positive, John, and I'm trying, but thank you for everything. You tried hard. Let's move on. That's all I can say. I don't know.
Jesse, I don't know what team you support or follow. Feel free to tell us if you want to. But what are your thoughts? I'm guessing as an outsider, not as a Man United fan. What are your thoughts on Jane Ross?
Yeah, I'm a Chelsea fan, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jane Ross. I mean, I think when she joined, I expected more from her than we saw. I think it made sense as a signing at the time. I hear what you're saying, Natalie, about Ebony Salmon, but I think, in terms of having such a young squad the way United did, having that bit of experience as a backup, seems like on paper, like a logical thing to do, but it's just never really clicked for her at the club at all, has it? And, I think, it just makes sense for her to leave. It's not been the right fit, I don't think. And she's just, at least, at United, doesn't seem like she's at this top end of WSL level anymore. Unfortunately, I think she's 32. That probably makes sense. And I think, also the way United like to play, it's a very dynamic team, again, very youthful, quite fast paced. I think, again, that just style doesn't really suit Jane Ross in that way. So yeah, I think it makes sense ultimately.
I don't know if you heard the rumours about her asking to try and find a team in Italy. Do you think there's any kind of any meat in that kind of article or that I read going to Italy?
I mean, I think probably when you're Jane Ross's age, you're just looking for whatever your best paydays are going to be. Ultimately, you're probably looking at your last couple of seasons, and she's also of that generation who has probably been getting paid crap for the best decade of her career. So I expect you look at the whatever offers on the table you can get, and you take which one's got the best salary.
Let's talk about Preston Heath.
Good for her.
Yeah, exactly. Good for her, 100%.
Let's talk about Preston Heath. Obviously, today's announcement. Jesse, just sticking with yourself. What were your original thoughts when Preston Heath joined United, come over to the WSL? Because it's a massively strong league that we had last season, not just at United, but obviously Chelsea signing harder for a world record fee, Man City bringing in players, even Tottenham, bringing in who they brought in, and it was a massive season. But what were your thoughts seeing all these US stars coming over?
Yeah, I mean, now it feels like it was ages ago. The other day, I was like, remember when Alex Morgan was at Tottenham? What the hell was that about? It feels like so long ago now. But yeah, when everyone came in, it was just it just seemed mad to have everyone here. And I do think, Heath and Press definitely, to me, felt like the two most exciting acquisitions, both because of how good I think they are, and also because of what it felt like it said about United. Now, I think actually at the end of the season, when we look at the way kind of Casey's departed, maybe stuff seemed more rosy than it actually, was behind the scenes. But at the time, it just felt like this amazing statement of intent. And, I think Press obviously got off to quite a slow start, but he just felt like she hit the ground running. And I think it's obviously between her and Mewis really for who had the most impact on the WSL. But I feel like Heath was just so exciting to watch, and to get to see her just play with all these players we've been watching for years just seemed mad. Yeah, and that goal in the derby, I'm sure that's a goal you guys will never forget, and that was one of the goals of the season for me as well. It was just such an amazing moment. And then with Press, I thought even though she started slow, by the end of the season you really saw her connecting, especially with Ella Toon. I thought she did come into the team really well, and I think when you guys were going through a really tricky period with all your injuries, she was really kind of helping you along, and I think I know it wasn't the most positive end to the season, but I thought her performances towards the end of the season were the highlight of some of those games. And I think it's a real shame they've gone, because I think there was a real opportunity there. It seemed from the outside that there was an opportunity to keep them for another year. Their kind of rights are with Louisville, but everyone knows they don't really want to go there. They're obviously kind of waiting for Angel City because they want to go there. So I still kind of think maybe if everything had been good and Casey hadn't left, maybe you would have held on to them. And I think that would have been amazing. Obviously, Tobin missed so much time because of an injury, and it felt like Kristen was just really getting into her stride and really fitted into the team. So I think, ultimately, it feels like a shame for United. It feels like a shame for the league, just because, with Mewis and Lavelle at City, Lavelle obviously just wasn't a right fit, and it was just bizarre that they picked two players who played in almost identical positions. So that's why the Heath and Press thing felt like such a, I know there are other reasons why they come as a duo, but it felt logical in terms of their positions as well and what United needed to boost. But with Mewis and Lavelle, they obviously decided they didn't really want to be at City anymore. They wanted to go back to the US, whereas it feels like with Press and Heath, they've almost just ended up going back there rather than for any, I know Press has made some comments as well about, the standards perhaps not being as high as she expected. But again, it just feels like a bit of a shame there.
Nat, do you want to jump on any of that before I continue?
Yeah, I agree. It was all set up, and I think around Christmas time we were hearing they're going to stay. I know we were doing some shows, and Emma Sanders came on and sort of said what she's hearing is good things, and then it's as if it was all going well, and I think that's the same with everything. Everything was going well, and then the moves and the this and the moving here and the training happened, and then everything, not just like one little bit, it's like everything, and all the injuries came, then everything, and it all spiraled out of control. And it's a missed opportunity. I mean, I know Jessie might say, oh no, but if they could come, I wouldn't want to see them back in the league, because I think Tobin especially, she's planted herself that goal, kissing the badge and all this,
Let's talk about that game, that City game, because it wasn't just a goal. It was the build-up to it. It was the rallying the troops, kissing the badge, the actual goal itself, coming back from behind the derby.
Yeah.
That game was...
It was the best thing, I'd even say, wasn't even the game. It was the night before, a couple of nights before, and this video came out, and she went, we've been... And I can nearly recite it word for word. No one goes to City. Everyone thinks they're a big club. They're not a big club. They're a small club. No one in Manchester knows about City. And I just was sitting there with my mouth open like, yo. And she said, no one goes. They've got no fans. Really, the true fans of Manchester and Man United. I thought, this girl, I just thought that is just, that's, if you were going to write a book on how to win United's fans' heart, you would write that and then give it to her. And I don't know who we're hearing like Millie Turner and Ella Toon. I couldn't imagine all them getting involved. Oh yeah, say this. And then and she just said it, and the way she said it, and the other two were like, no, that's not. And I thought, listen, it's true, yeah? Manchester's red, and then she just grabbed the badge. Oh, it was beautiful. It was just poetic that. And the only thing that wasn't, if the fans were there, that would have been gone off. That game would have, people were queuing that. They would have just gone off.
Just at that point, Man United was flying, and obviously as a Chelsea fan, was you ever concerned that we were going to maintain that winning streak? Because for the first 10, 11 games, we was looking really dangerous. Was you kind of worried a little bit on that one? Yeah,
I mean, I think I kind of felt like two things. I think I always felt that the games that were going to matter were those games against everyone. So in some ways I was looking at it like, this is great, seeing United take points off City. That's exactly what I as a Chelsea fan wanted to see as well. But of course, it makes you nervous, because you're then sitting there thinking, well, we drew that opening game, we've got to play you again. This is like a situation where you just can't drop points, and especially because we'd also drawn with Arsenal. So you're definitely going into looking at those games thinking, wow, these teams are good. We're not automatically going to beat them. But it was exciting to have other teams able to take points off, City and Arsenal and Chelsea. That's just exciting for the league, right? You want more games where you feel like it's riding on it, to go from, maybe 6 games a year where it feels like the whole league's decided to those 8. You want to get as many of those as possible for that to matter. And it was like, even, you know, I know, again, you guys were at the top of the table for so long and it probably didn't still feel great when you were slipping away. But even that Champions League battle was, you know, we've never had something like that before, because we've never had like these 4 teams going for 3 places. And even though it divided into this kind of Chelsea and City in first and second and United and Arsenal in third and fourth, like that was amazing. Like that, it was so exciting to like go to those games and like see how much was riding on it. And it pushes everyone. Well, you hope it pushes everyone to be better. I think what's funny is you look at United and Arsenal at the moment, and they've got these like massive summers in terms of like the direction of both those clubs and what happens next. And the hope is, yeah, this competition makes everyone think, you know, we need to plow money into it, because that's what all these clubs should be doing. I guess we just have to kind of wait and see whether that is what happens.
Well, shall we move on to that subject now then? Because one of my topics was like, where do you kind of see United next season, but also our local rival, our close rivals, Arsenal, obviously, who we need to leapfrog for next season, but also the likes of Everton being spoken highly about with the business that they're doing. Where do you kind of see United at the moment? Because I'm seeing it as it's quite unstable, but that's because there's not much talk about any announcements that's actually happened behind the scenes, so it looks unstable from a fan. I know Natalie tomorrow will talk a lot more about things a bit more in a positive light tomorrow. But at the moment, because there's so many, like, we've seen all the names and all the rumours of people who are leaving, the manager's gone, we still haven't got a manager at least not being announced. Where do you kind of see us next season?
I think it feels so hard to judge. I just like the stuff that came out around Casey leaving and like what was going on behind the scenes. Like, she is such an obviously like force of nature, and she obviously pushed so much at the club, and she did so much personally with all those players. You know, you even look at like Leah Galton, like she wasn't playing football before like Tooney and United come in for her, you know, and she's like one of your standout players. So what worries me is who is there at the club now that's driving that like push, you know? And because United are so new, you just worry there's not that same buy-in at like an exec level the way that say Chelsea and City clearly have. I think, you know, whoever comes in as the next manager will be really crucial. I think if I was a United fan, I would kind of be hoping for someone in Stoney's mould potentially, e.g. someone who hasn't necessarily managed a lot but is like ready to come in, work with young players, like really make their mark on the team. Because what I worry about with United is, you know, like bringing more of a name in, but maybe that actually making things a bit stagnant because they're kind of just there to be at United rather than to really buy into like the ethos of building a club. And that's what it felt like with Casey Stoney. And, you know, like, I'm a Chelsea fan. I don't like United, but like Casey Stoney made it impossible to dislike United. And that's like testament to, yeah, the players she brought in, the way she developed young players, the football she got you guys to play. And I think my worry is now who is pushing all of that next. And like, I don't think anyone has an answer for that right now, you know.
Nat, Jesse just mentioned there about the mould of Stoney, and we was kind of the same. Like, after it all settled down and we kind of got our heads around Casey leaving, we started thinking, okay, what kind of manager do we want? And a lot of us did say we don't just want like a glamour name signing. We want someone who's ready here for another 5-year plan, who can look after the players and don't think about themselves. And obviously, you mentioned Carla Ward with all her success at some of the lower teams, but is that kind of still the way you're thinking, or does it need to be a bit of a blend?
I think a bit of a blend. I mean, I would have loved Carla Ward. Biggest fan out here, Wardy FC. It's my little hashtag for her. But listen, I see where people were saying, oh, well, it can't be Carla Ward because she's not got any experience in that kind of, you know, top. Yes, she's done it at, you know, Sheffield and Birmingham, and now I'm no doubt in my mind that she's going to go and do it at Aston Villa. But for me, the name that John Fry's just put up, Maria Price, she's a Levante coach, done it on a limited budget, probably a smaller budget than us, got them pretty much up there as, competing with Real Madrid. Real Madrid have a massive budget. Levante don't have as big a budget. They've got a young squad. I think they play attacking football. I sometimes watch a couple of the games. I like the way they play. I like the determination to fight to the end. They recently played Barcelona. They lost 4-2, but they got it to, I think they were 3-0 down, got it to 3-2, and then obviously lost 4-2. But that's the kind of fight and determination. And, everyone knows about how good Barcelona are. So for a team like Levante to push them, for me, it's testament to her. I'm hearing she might be taking a sabbatical, but someone like that, I think she's in the mould. She's got a lot of experience. She maybe didn't have Champions League experience, but someone who's used to working with young players, obviously, because for me, that's a really key thing. I want to see more players now come up make that step up. We're seeing Carrie Jones do it a bit. We're seeing Tara Bond do it. There's definitely this other talents. I mean, we saw the first year in WSL, Rebecca May make her debut, so I think she's still there. I'd like to see her given a bit of time. I know it's hard with all the games that we have. We always have City in the Conti Cup. We always have some big names. They always put us against a big team in the starting. But, games like Birmingham, no disrespect, but games like Birmingham, I know Bristol's not here anymore, but, games like that, I would like to see a few, development players and, development players definitely being in and around the squad. Like I said, there were 2 girls that were. So for me, Maria Pry, but I don't know. There'll be other people along that mould and out there. And, you just want them to as well buy into the ethos that is Man United.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree with that. I think a lot of fans would. I think a lot of fans are also getting a little bit worried that it's taking so much time to announce. Just what are your kind of thoughts and the reasons behind it? Could it be the fact that the current manager is going to the Olympics and they don't want to announce it until maybe the Olympics is over, or he or she might still be in another job, or are they just waiting for the right time to get the biggest PR? We know what Man United like, and it's Arsenal as well. Now Arsenal are in the same boat.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, Arsenal obviously had a lot longer lead and they've not announced yet. Part of me wonders whether that is because other candidates entered the ring at later stages, perhaps other candidates who used to play for Arsenal. But, I think it just depends on what the club's internal process looks like. And again, I think it probably speaks to the really central role that Casey Stoney had at United. It's not like you're in a position where, maybe at men's clubs, for example, where basically you've got directors of football who are doing all your transfers and really doing all your general management. And then your manager is like your head coach, so you're looking for something different. Whereas at United, if Casey was doing all that stuff, which it seems like she was, or large portions of it, you're going to want to take time to find the right person or maybe people. I know Tim Stillman's talked about potentially Arsenal having a bit of a restructure to again have more of like this director of football and coach split, whereas before Montemurro did a lot of that stuff together. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. I think it's probably a good sign. Ultimately, it probably means they're like taking time to think about who the right candidate is. I think maybe it just feels a bit strange because obviously, like Carla Ward was like snapped up by Aston Villa within the week, but I don't think it's too much to worry about. And Casey obviously left quite surprisingly, so they haven't been aware of it, and they haven't. It's not like when obviously Nick Cushing left City. They'd been talking about for a while, and he was going to another City club. So they obviously had it, and they hired internally, so they had everything like lined up. So I think it's kind of normal.
We'll talk about Tooney shortly. We'll talk about a few players coming in and out, and we'll talk about Sky TV as well. And Nat, did you just want to jump in there?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anyone, but if they wanted Carla Ward, they would have got her. And I wanted Carla Ward, but I think, no disrespect to Aston Villa, I do think that if we did, either us or Arsenal did really go out there, right, Carla, we want you, boom, boom, there's the pen. I'm not, I do think United have a lot to work on in what's happened, and obviously people will be questioning if I'm coming here, what's changed, etc., etc. How is this different from what happened with Casey? But I do think still we're a young club, we've got a good squad. You know, Emma and Rich have come on and talked about the foundations that are there. So I think, you know, I don't think that they live off the name, but it's still Man United. It's still big. It's still good progress, and I just think they just need to build on that, and I hope that they're on the right track for it.
Just finishing up on this then, Arsenal and Everton next season, Jesse, where do you kind of see those in regards to the top 3 race? I mean, I know obviously until the new signings come in, it's very hard to say, but I think United fans, we don't want to get into that mould where maybe some of the fans of other clubs are into, where we're okay with 4th. No, we still want to keep on progressing to 3rd and then above that. But we're looking around us at the moment to see what our rivals are doing, and we're finding it a bit awkward. You know, even like Everton now, who finished loads of points behind us, we're still kind of looking over our shoulder now as opposed to looking ahead. Where do you kind of see Arsenal and Everton going next season?
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal, I think, is, if I was an Arsenal fan, I wouldn't be feeling great. I think if they hold on to Miedema, she's basically a cheat code, so they're always going to have a shout of finishing in that top 3. But I think with them playing Champions League football, and obviously with this new format, there's a lot of games for Arsenal to play, and they've got a small squad, because obviously that was kind of Montemuro's preference, and they've had all these injury problems. So I could see Arsenal struggling in the league, but there's so many unknowns there, because, you know, supposedly they might be bringing in Nikita Paris, which I think is a bit of a weird signing, but I also, you know, she was very good when she was in the WSL. She hasn't looked very good recently at Lyon. She hasn't really played on the right, which is presumably where she would play at Arsenal. She's not really done that at Lyon. She's played 9, but obviously Miedema plays there. So, you know, that's very odd. We don't know who their manager is, so that's going to have a big impact. But I do wonder whether this coming season will be a bit of transitional season for Arsenal. Everton, on the other hand, I think probably have the best shout of kind of being a bit of a surprise package. And I thought this last season, and they totally faded away. But they've got, their recruitment is amazing. Like, whoever they've got doing their scouting is very, very good at picking up good players. And, you know, it didn't quite work out for them, but they've had those players there for a season now. It looks like they're holding on to the majority of them. Obviously, Ingrid Movold has retired. That's a bit of a loss for them, because I thought she was really good. But, you know, there's lots of very talented players there. They look like they're only adding to that. Willie Kirk seems like a good manager, again, without necessarily being exceptional. But I think they are the team to watch, just because Arsenal and United are having all these like transition, you know, lots of stuff's changing at those clubs, and I just think, you know, it's probably going to be normal for both those clubs to potentially struggle to, you know, go straight into it and hit the ground running. But it's a long season. Lots of things changed, you know, during the season, and you just don't know. I think City are the other team who I think will be really interesting to see next season. I think Khadija Shaw is like exactly the right signing for them to make, as much as I hate to say it. So I think they could be very good, but, you know, I'm still not totally convinced by Gareth Taylor. So again, there's a bit of a question mark there too. So, you know, I think it's going to be very exciting. I think there's lots up for grabs, but I feel like Everton, of, you know, those 3 teams threatening Chelsea and City, I would say are probably best placed. But we could be having a totally different conversation like the week before the season starts, because, you know, United and Arsenal could both go out and like sign an amazing collection of players and get an amazing manager, and we'd be talking about it. It's just so hard when those gaps are there.
As a United fan, I'm saying we're finishing 3rd. I don't care. That's it. Said it.
Well, I think because Arsenal are in a bit of a bad way, I think that kind of helps us as well. And I know it shouldn't be down to, if other teams slack off. I get that. And yeah, it's okay Everton bringing in players, but they've still got to obviously win games, haven't they?
And what I'd say, just from reading what they're bringing in and reading what we're bringing in, and we're going to go on. Some of the players are good, and I was really upset when I read Anna Advertise was going to them. But then I've seen Tony Duggan's going to them. No disrespect, I think, but you need better if you're challenging. And like you say, I'm reading Nikita Paris is going to Arsenal. I'm not sitting there, sugar. The only one is Anna Avogard, but I don't even know if I said her name right. But other than that, I think it's kind of even. But I know we're going to go on to it.
Well, we'll have a bit of a break from that for a moment, and we'll talk a little bit about Team GB, mainly just Tooney, but obviously, Jesse, your thoughts on the squad as well. Only one United player, but it's our best United player that I think, obviously, Ona was our player of the season, but then a lot of us would have voted for Tooney next. Jesse, just your thoughts on, first of all, how well Tooney's developed over the last 3 years, from obviously coming from a championship to not getting much game time in our first season in the WSL, and then last season, our leading goal scorer, leading assists. I think she played one of the most games as well. Just your thoughts on Tooney?
Yeah, I think she's amazing. I love watching her play. I think she's so clever. The stuff she sees is really impressive. I think she links up with players really well. It doesn't feel like she has to be playing with a certain player or a certain set of players around her. It feels like regardless, she's gonna, make those passes, put those balls into the box. Her finishing has got so much better as well, which is obviously a massive asset. But yeah, I think she's great. She was, aside from Heath, and obviously we only saw her for a bit, she was my favourite United player to watch the season. I thought she was probably unlucky to only end up on the kind of Team GB bench, whatever. I don't really know what that thing is. I would have probably, I'd have maybe given her the nod over George Stanway, but I kind of understand why Stanway's there. It's just a tricky one. The squad's so small, ultimately. But yeah, and I also think, kind of what Ella Toon represents is going forward is United's biggest asset. That set of players who were in United's academy when they didn't have a women's team, who came back for the start. You guys are incredibly lucky to have had that, given that you didn't have a senior women's team for so long. It'd have been so easy for players like that to be like, nah, fuck this, because it wasn't there for them when they needed it. But I think it's been, that's what is going to really sustain United. And I think she's going to go on to be one of the best number 10s in the WSL if she's not already. She's very, very close.
100%.
I mean, do you want to kind of elaborate on that, Nat? Because we all love,
Yeah, I love Tooney. I think when I first watched her, I was like, oh, yeah, she's scoring a lot of goals, but, she can improve in this and that. And I think just over the years, we've seen it improve. And I know she was probably a bit frustrated. I was a bit frustrated for her as well. She would score loads of goals versus Leicester in the cup when we won 11. She scored 5, and then obviously the next game she wasn't in the setup. And I think that was Casey just building her in, and I think that's really helped her in a way. She didn't just throw her straight in the WSL. She sort of gradually has brought her in. And then I think our last game before COVID was Everton, and Tooney had 2 assists and a goal, and it just showed, bang, this is what I can do. And for me, yeah, I agree with what Jessie just said about the best number 10. I think if she carries on in the way that she's going, she can easily be that. And I know we get a lot of people coming on, and I love Lauren James, and even maybe Jessie can talk about it. And I like Lauren James. When I first saw her, she's my everything, yeah. And I think, I'm not saying, but I think that Tooney could. I'm not saying we won't miss Lauren, because Lauren is, when we have generational talent, but Tooney's work rate is, if you just put Tooney's work rate in Lauren James, that's it, it's finished, game over. Yeah, and I'm not saying that Lauren can't get that work rate or get that fit or get that to that level. Obviously, Tooney's got 3 years on her, I think. She's 21 and Lauren's 19. But I just think and then I'm going to get abused for this. We might not miss Lauren as much because Tooney then might come up and be that player. Obviously, we're still going to miss Lauren, but Tooney's kept Lauren out for a few games, really. Lauren wants to play 10. Tooney's had that position locked.
I've got to jump in on this, and I want to hear Jessie's thoughts on it as well. As soon as he says Chelsea fan, obviously it's on my mind to talk about LJ. But yeah, I have to agree with you, Nat, because I think that Tooney actually represents United, the way that we grew up from the men's game as well. I can see her being like a one-club player. She plays in that role where she can score. Again, I even saw her last season going back and picking the ball up off the defender, running with it. She played absolutely everywhere, right wing last season as well. The fans love her. I think she's very approachable. She's great on social media. She's honest. She doesn't try and be anything that she's not. We know who she is. She's still learning, obviously, not just about football, but how to act like on camera, and like it looks like the club are investing a lot of time in her as well, and like kind of coaching her like what to do. And I just think that I never want Tooney to leave. I'll be honest with you. I want her to stay, not just because she's a quality player. I just think that she's a good ambassador for the club. I just think that she's everything Man United is, and obviously she's a local girl as well. So as things stand, obviously she's just going from strength to strength to strength, season on season. And if she can just maintain that in the fourth season, that starting 11, if she can just stay that starting 11, I just think that she can just continue to develop. Before you went to Craig's question on screen, LJ, Jesse, what are your thoughts on that deal then?
Yeah, I think it feels like Chelsea just being like, we have to get her because she could be amazing. Natalie, I totally hear what you're saying about Ella Tooney, and I think, Lauren James will get a lot more consistent. She's obviously really struggled with injuries. Feels like she keeps coming back too early. She just needs, hopefully, like the summer, like just some time to like heal. Ella Tooney is just like a very consistent player, and that's what you want in a team. I think what is exciting, say, about LJ going to Chelsea is that she just has magic in her. She's just like a magical player, and there's not actually, anyone at Chelsea with that rawness, because Chelsea so often sign players who are at the very top of their game, understandably, but you look at the whole, you're signing someone who they're a magical footballer, but they don't. I don't know. It's just like Lauren James just does stuff from like nowhere. That goal she scored against us, where she just like goes up to the edge of the area and she's just like, "Yeah, I'm just going to bend it in." Like, what? I've only just come on the pitch. Who cares? So I think she's really exciting. I don't know if going to Chelsea is the best move for her. I don't know whether it's because of Reece, like whether it's because of the club's offer. I'm sure it's a very attractive offer. And I'm sure Reece presumably does play a factor. That's got to be nice. You want to play with the same club as your brother. Yeah. She's obviously, from London. It's kind of been reported that, Casey was a big part of helping her feel like she fitted in Manchester. Again, I can see why she wants to go back to London. I just hope Chelsea give her the game time. And I guess the reason why I find it a strange move is Emma Hayes doesn't need to take risks on players. And it feels like playing Lauren James getting game time would be a risk compared to the other players Chelsea have in the squad. So that's the only thing I just don't quite get. But then it's just like there's an awkward level, I think, within the WSL where maybe that and I think you've seen it, even the fact that Lauren James couldn't get a starting place regularly at United, is it feels like she's obviously too good for a team in the bottom half, but she's still not quite there necessarily to really nail down a starting place in a team going for the Champions League. And I think that's partly why you've seen Ebony Salmon go to the NWSL. That's why that move makes so much sense, because the NWSL, I think, almost sits perfectly in between those two things. It feels like teams in the league are a lot closer together. It really feels like anyone can beat anyone in that league. But maybe this is my bias, but I think the best WSL teams are better than the best NWSL teams. So I don't know. I'm really excited. It's kind of ridiculous that Chelsea can just go and sign players all the time. And I'm excited to see what happens for her, but I do just worry about it just a little bit.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. We've discussed it. Same. Totally.
Yeah. We have, yeah. So we'll move on. So Craig, does Jess think that Team GB will struggle with lack of friendlies?
Yes. I think it's I don't understand what's going on. I just don't know. It just feels like, and I don't know whether I blame Phil Neville or the FA more, but I just feel like all of this stuff has just been such a mess from start to finish. You know, I've seen people say, oh, like, it's hard to organise, you know, friendlies in COVID. You know, there's only a small set of teams going to the Olympics. There's limited time for people to play, all that kind of stuff. But I'm like, but every other team has managed to organise friendlies. So I don't exactly know, you know, like, I guess maybe it's the unique bit of being Team GB, but obviously in the international break we just had, there was no Team GB games because everyone was playing Scotland and Wales played friendlies. England didn't play at all. Again, don't understand why that was going on. Even if, you know, like, look, there's 3 non-English players in that squad. Just play an England friendly because your starting 11 is presumably going to be almost entirely English. So I don't know. I hate watching England at the moment under Hegarisa. I just think it's rubbish. I think the squad's like quite strange. It feels like it's based on imagining where players could play rather than where they actually play. And there's like no one who plays on the right wing, on the right or the left. Everyone just plays centrally. So I don't feel good about it at all. And yeah, I don't understand why there are no friendlies. I don't get what's going on. I don't get who's meant to be organising this, but it doesn't feel like, it feels like someone just forgot to like read the email which said like arrange for Team GB to play in the Olympics, and now the FA's like, oh my god, they've got to go to Tokyo next month.
I think it's quite in the comments, but where do you think that we'll end up in the Olympics? I'm hearing like mixed reviews. I'm hearing like, you know, some people are positive, but then some people are like, yeah, they're not, you know, they look at that squad and it's aging and this, that, and the other. Nat and I don't follow international football much, and neither do I. We're Man United, and that's where we've come, you know, that's where we've come from. But what are your kind of thoughts on the on Team GB?
I don't know who they've got. I know they've got Chile, and Jesse might have to tell me who else they've got. But
Chile
and Canada, I think they've got. I think,
yeah.
But no, I'm looking at. I think Sweden will do well. I think. Obviously, America will do well. I think, what's it? Not Norway. No, it's Jackie's team. Holland will do well. So that's the 3 positions for the medals gone, in my opinion. Just those 3. So, Team GB, I don't know. They might shock us all and go and win gold or silver or whatever because Jesse's shaking her head. But yeah. I those 3 teams that I've said, I can see them doing better than, and I can see them in medal positions. So I don't think you get anything for 4th in this one, which no, it's bronze, silver, and gold in it. So yeah, that's what I see getting. I don't know which order because I know then people get a bit touchy. Oh, America are going to win gold. Okay, I don't know. But I can just see those 3 teams. I mean, Japan, Canada, and Japan are really good, to be fair. So. I don't know if, I mean, people might need to educate me here, but I don't know if it's 2 teams that come up or 1, because then I can see Japan coming before Team GB. And then Canada have just beaten England in a friendly at Stoke. So it's one of them, isn't it? I know there's this push now, though, for instead of just the 18 team to include the subs, and that would actually be really good because if it was a full, like, 24-person squad, I think you get more out of it then, and you could make subs and you could do that. I think relying on 18 players is a bit of a no-no, especially with the way that we've had it COVID. There's been a lot put on players. You know, we're seeing the Euros now and, you know, players are looking tired. So I think they should, the Olympic body should agree to include the whole, you know, alternates rather than just relying on these solely 18 players because, you know, with what's going on with COVID, I think it makes no sense not to have, if it was, say, a normal season and all that, yeah, fair enough. But with COVID and what's going on in the world, they should allow, you know, it to be a full squad rather than just 18 players, in my opinion. But yeah, that's what I think, Jan. I don't know if Jesse wants to come in or you want to say a bit, Jan. Do you agree with me, Jess, about those 3 teams, maybe, or do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main problem with England / Team GB, having watched England play recently, is that they just don't feel very creative going forward, which is bizarre because there's lots of very good players there. You know, like there's no reason why they shouldn't be competing. And I think my worry is Canada, I think, are just a better team. We saw it, and that's annoying because they're managed by Bev Priestman, who is English and was literally our assistant manager. So that's like, here's what you could have had if you'd sorted your act out sooner before she wanted to be offered a head coach job, which she was, and good for her for going and get it. Chile obviously then have Tiana Endler in goal. So you have to create really good chances there. So I can totally see that ending in a 0-0. Japan, I watched us. I went to, that was the one World Cup game I went to, was us to see Japan play England and like the dullest game in the world. And the Argentina-Scotland game was on at the same time, and my phone was just going off, and I was like, why am I watching this rubbish, boring game in France? So that one I could also just see ending in a draw because Japan are a solid team with, like good players. And I think that's just like, it just feels like England are so stodgy at the moment, and there's no plan, there's no ideas, there's no patterns of play. And it's not actually, like you could say that about the England men's team at the moment, but that's based on like defensive solidity. Whereas you look at those England games, those friendlies from before, it was just like, everything was a like defensive error. So you're clearly not going to win games like that. And it's a shame because going to the Olympics is such an honour because only 3 European teams get to go. But I don't feel very optimistic.
You know who the Lionesses need? I think they need a manager who's proven in European football, who's a rival of Man United. Maybe someone like, I don't know, Emma Hayes, just to clear off out of Chelsea, and then just to make it a bit easier for United to come across. Can you ever see Emma Hayes kind of leaving Chelsea and going over there?
I know that one day Emma Hayes will leave Chelsea, but I cannot imagine Chelsea without Emma Hayes. It will happen at some point. She's been there forever.
10 years,
but I don't know. I think she wants to win the Champions League first. I think once she wins the Champions League, which I hope will happen, then maybe she'll start thinking about what's next. I don't know if she would want international management or if she would suit it, because I just think she likes so much to work incredibly intensely with her players. I don't. I think you need to be a really like a certain type of person to be an international manager. I don't know if Emma Hayes is interested in being in that person. I'm sure she would do a good job if she took it on, but she doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. So if she doesn't fancy it, she won't do it.
We'll move on. We'll spend a few minutes talking about Sky TV, and then a few minutes on potential transfers coming into United as well. So obviously when Sky TV was announced, I think there was a bit of a split in the women's football fan base. I think a lot of Man United fans were fairly happy, apart from obviously the dates and the timings of the games. But apart from that, I think it's good to obviously get exposure out there. Jesse, what were your kind of thoughts on that? And also, what do you think Sky TV can bring to the games on match day regarding, like a proper broadcast as opposed to like the FA player or BT Sport?
Yeah, I think it's obviously really exciting. It's good to have money coming into the game. I guess, the dates and times thing did like rankle with me quite a bit, mainly just because I feel like the reason why I've always enjoyed women's football is because it feels like it could be something different from men's football. And the Sky deal, whilst it's really exciting, whilst it's really important, feels like one step towards being like, we just have to mimic what men's football does. And that means that ultimately broadcast is king. And I just think that's a shame because I think actually, women's football being accessible, bringing new fans in, giving people the opportunity to see like the best players in the world for like incredibly cheap prices is great, and it's a shame to see these games, you know, shunted to Friday evenings or Sunday evenings and make them inaccessible to fans, particularly away fans, obviously. But, you know, I think Sky's broadcasts will be good. I think the analysis will be a lot better. Obviously, if you've paid for something, you've got much more incentive to do more with it because you want to make the most of it. You know, with BT, when they were just getting it, obviously it was good of them to like put stuff on. But, you know, it's like whatever to them, what like the standard of broadcast and stuff like that. So I guess my only other concern as well with, you know, Sky is what, you know, having games behind paywalls looks like. I already felt like that with, you know, BT, and I know they showed like the Champions League final for free and stuff like that. So although I hadn't watched that ultimately, but I think that's sometimes a shame as well. And I think it's good to see that BBC will still have stuff too. But I just hope we don't end up necessarily with all those like biggest, most exciting games behind a paywall at a time where maybe people can't get to as much, because that feels like it's not a win, you know?
Yeah.
For me, I was really excited. Then I saw the kickoff times and I think, fans are the last ones to be thought of, like you say, especially away fans. But I just hope if they do get it right, I think it's a game changer, in my opinion. I think, you know, we're starting to see a bit more of a tactical and reports and, you know, athletic. And I know there's this analytical FC and they're doing women's games. And I just think having content and having, you know, stats and XG, XA, I don't know all about it, carrying the ball possession, all these kind of things. I mean, you can sit there and say, Fran Kirby's a great player. Yeah, everyone knows that. We can watch her and see she's a great player. But what you see about Fran Kirby is this is how she grew up, this is what happened, and it's a great story, but that's all you see. Whereas now I want to know, right, actually Fran Kirby's stats are she's played this many games, scored this many goals, this is an assist rate, this is how many assists she's expected to make, but she makes double the amount. That's the kind of thing, you know, when people talk about Bruno, they talk about goals and assists is like 45 and it's the highest in Europe. When they talk about Shaw, they talk about his chance creation. There's stories behind them as well. There's obviously the story with Shaw and Mourinho, but you still talk about Shaw being the highest chance creating fullback in the whole of Europe. And I feel maybe we didn't need Sky to get there, but I feel like maybe Sky might help that in a way. And that's what we need more of in the women's game. And I know you think about that as well, Jesse, a lot. Because I've listened to your podcast, Box to Box, and I love how you guys all talk about that kind of thing. I mean, I don't know anything about it. I just listen. But I like it because I know then I'm learning about football, because that's why I watch the women's game, because I want to know about football. I obviously want to know about the players, and you do become attached to players, and you know, but you want to know about football because that's why I'm watching it, you know? Yeah,
I think you know, I feel like a lot of the time at the moment we get the what, you know, who the players are, what they play, where they play, blah, blah. But we rarely get the why. Why is that person better than that? Why is this team working out? Why can't this team defend, you know? And they're the questions that are actually interesting. Yeah. Because otherwise you're just watching a game and it's fun. And I think especially you see that even more with, you know, COVID, because if you're sat watching at home, you don't even have any of that atmosphere to get like swept up in. So it just feels a bit cold unless you can like, you know, I want to hear from whether it's, you know, ex-players, ex-managers, whatever, like what they think and why they think things are happening.
I think that will help. That's why I love watching MUTV, and not just because it's biased, but because they have Siobhan Chamberlain on, who actually says, Casey does this happens in training, this is what they want to, you can see that's that, you know, and she's been in it and she knows. And even it'll be good to listen to Shivy when a new manager comes in, and she might say the differences between the two. And obviously I know she's still got friends there, and that's what you want to, you know, like John's saying, we always hear these names and we're going to talk about some names, but I want to know about them. I want to know what they do. I want to know why they're better than, say, someone who's going out. I want to know how they can improve our team. And we're starting to see a lot more of it about on Twitter, but it needs to be more than just about on Twitter. It needs to be broadcast when you're actually showing the game, when you know, BBC after match and all those kind of things after match. I want to see, I mean, I hope they do something like this, like, you know, when Gary Neville and they've got the pens and the pointing. That's what I want to see. fed up of that sounds horrible, fed up, but I don't want to hear about the backstory. And this is how I know it's hard for women's footballers, but we're at the point now where we can really push it. And like you say, Jessie said the why, and I think it's coming, and it's what you want to know. You want to know why this player's good, what makes them special, and what they're good at, and what's the weakness, and why they're better than this player. And I know people don't really like comparisons, but that's what's going to make the game go, talking about those kind of things.
Nat, do you want to just bring in a final topic?
Yeah.
So obviously we've heard loads of names, but maybe if you just narrow it down to maybe the three that's most likely.
Well, the three that are running around the screen, and the two of the three, I'm not saying I know anything, but I've heard of done deals. Bora Risa, who's basically left Norwegian club. It's done. It's a done deal. It's something we talked about back in January. We thought she was going to come in then, but looks pretty much 100%. Well, nothing's ever 199.9% that she's coming to Man United, which I think is a great signing. Mia's come on and talked about her, Mia Eriksson, and she's done an article about her. So I definitely, United fans, Reds, go and read that, because she actually does what Jessie says. She compares her to the midfielders that we currently has. And sort of says she fits in that Katie Zellum role. She's similar type of player. She's got good passing, long pass, through pass. She's scored 5 goals, 7 assists. So this is the kind of thing I think we have been missing, goal-scoring midfielders. So, Tooney's added a lot of goals, but other than Tooney, we've not really had a lot of goals from midfield. And to be honest, as well, I'm not saying drop Jackie or anything like that, because Jackie, we do see her as that system. A lot happens through Jackie, but maybe play Jackie a bit deeper and then play Risa. I don't know. It's up to the manager. But for me, I think that's going to be a great signing. Also a signing that I've heard is done is Aoife Mannion. I know a lot of people are 50-50. I think she's a great player if she can stay fit. And that's going to be the one for me. I think she'll be, up there alongside, Millie Turner, Amy Turner. But for me, I think she should have joined United when she joined City. Instead, obviously, people said, well, United had just come up, but I think that was the time for her. I think she would have been in the England squad now if she had joined United. That's just my opinion. I know, people say no, she got in the England squad with City, but and I understand why people are frustrated by her coming in, because they think that was a player that we could have had, and then she's coming back when it's not worked at City. So I do understand that. Martha Thomas is another one that I've not heard definitely done, but I've heard probably likely to happen. I want to know Jessie's thoughts on all three.
Risa, I won't pretend to know anything. I don't watch Norwegian football. I've read Mia Eriksson's article. She is my go-to on anything Scandinavian, because she is an absolute fountain of knowledge and very, very clever. But from what Mia said, she seems like a really good fit. I think what she allows United to do is, push, whether it's Jackie Gronan or Katie Zellum forward, or push them back, whatever it is. It's just a bit more variety, and I think, there were points last season where we saw when Jackie Gronan, especially, I think, moved further forward, how much more of an impact she can have in an attacking sense, rather than just kind of directing the play through her. So I think that's it makes sense. Aoife Mannion, I think, looks really, really good whenever I've seen her. It was incredibly hyped when she went to City, but it reminds me quite a lot of Jess Carter at Chelsea. I feel like, we think she's really good because she was really good at Birmingham, but it's different to defend at, an elite level club. And we've not really had a chance to see her do that at City. The little bits we have seen, she's been fine. But we've not really seen her under pressure, obviously, because of her injury. But I think she could be a really, really good addition. I felt like the two Turners were starting to creak a little bit at the end of last season as a duo. So I think that's potentially a bit of an upgrade. The only thing I find a bit strange is that her profile is very similar to Maria Torresdottir. So I don't really understand I didn't really understand why Maria went to United anyway at the time, but that's just the only thing that I find a bit odd there, because it feels like United suddenly will have a lot of players who can play at centre back and right back, including Amy Turner. And then Martha Thomas is strange. But I guess because, you know, with Sigsworth and Ross moving on, she'll be back up to Rousseau when Rousseau's fit again. I think my only concern is that, you know, we don't know what kind of shape Rousseau's going to come back in, and Martha Thomas, like, no offence to her, but I don't think she's good enough to be a starting United striker. So that would be my only worry. And I just think also United have basically let 3 strikers go. They have one who's been injured for the past 6 months at least. And that's it. And Martha Thomas is meant to be the answer to all of that.
It's like what John Fry just said there. I can't say a name right, but I told you I'm going to ask you about it. I don't think it's going to be only Martha Thomas. I think it will be others coming in. For me, Charlotte, she divides opinion. I know I've said her name wrong. Assist Charlotte. Sorry. But I know you said that before about Paris, and you think, oh, she's one of them. And I've heard potentially Paris was going to come to United, but it didn't happen. Paris and Australia, I look at them both and I just think it's the same. I don't see, maybe Australia's a bit better, but what's your opinion on those two? And if, like you said, it does look like Paris going Arsenal, but if we did sign Australia, would you think that would be a good move for United? And do you think she'd add goals?
Yeah, I think Australia will definitely get goals. I think what's frustrating is that you can't predict when those goals will come, and they won't always come when the chances suggest they should come. You know, she can just be quite a frustrating player to watch, but of course she'll get goals. You know, she's a very good striker, and also, you know, I think you know, Arsenal fans will say they found us frustrating to watch as well. But you know, especially when you watch her in Barcelona, their team is so efficient all the time. Sometimes I feel like she kind of stands out as being particularly inefficient, just because you expect like the best of the best. Whereas I feel like at a team like United, it's not going to be as noticeable, especially when she's going to kind of have that confidence of being the starting striker. I feel like she is like a bit of a confidence player. I think it will be a really sensible deal for everyone involved. I think it would be a good fit, and I think she'll definitely get goals. Her versus Paris. I mean, yeah, I kind of get what you're saying, Natalie, about they feel quite similar. I feel like Oshuala's ceiling is higher than Paris's, but Paris is probably the more consistent player. So it just depends what you want to go for.
I feel like we've covered a hell of a lot tonight. The hour has just pretty much just gone. Jesse, just one last question before you do go. Is there any other names that you can think of who might be on the move, or who you've heard, or what you've read, who might be on the move, who might come to United at all?
I haven't heard anything, but I think United, and I guess maybe this is the only reason why Paris would maybe have been a more sensible decision than Oshuala, although it doesn't seem like it's going to happen that way, is that I feel like United really need some extra wingers / attacking forwards. With Heath, James going, he's often played out there. I like Kirsty Hansen, but it doesn't feel like she's really at the level you can rely on her week in, week out. Galton's obviously had quite a few injury issues, so that would be a bit of a concern for me. And I guess that's maybe why Paris would have been a better fit, because she can play on kind of wing or in the number 9 position. But that's kind of why, like, the Mannion stuff, for example, surprised me. Like, it's a good deal, and I guess if she's on the table, like, you snap her up, because I think she will be a good player. But I don't think that's where United need to strengthen. I think if you look at all the players who are leaving, and they all play up front, and that's the only thing that's kind of surprised me. Even with Boarista as well, like, you've got lots of good midfielders already. So I don't know whether that means other people are going. Who knows? But yeah, I think really, like, a left or right winger would be really useful.
Yeah, and I think people at Craig's just put Beth England. I know we're just gonna get wrap it up, but yeah, you're a Chelsea fan. I see her name's linked about.
I think Beth will. I think because of the season Beth had in terms of, she had an operation before the season started, so she missed pre-season. She came in a bit slow. She got that concussion just as she's come back into the team, and she had come back into the team, and then so she was out again. It just felt like she never really got a run in the team, but I expect she will stay at least for another year to see if she gets another shot, because I just don't think you let the PFA Player of the Year from last season go just because she had a bit of a naff season. I think we'll see more of her at Chelsea.
Awesome. Jessie, thank you very much for coming on. If anybody wants to follow you on Twitter or listen to any podcasts, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I am on Twitter at JessieJPH, and my podcast is on Twitter at, I think it's Box to Box WSL. It's in my Twitter bio. So if you find me, you'll find the podcast.
You'll find it, and we've tagged you all day long, so if they can find us, they can definitely find you. Jessie, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
No, it's been brilliant. Thank you. You'll have to definitely come back on again, 100%.
Yeah, when the season starts, we'll get you on.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. Plans for the rest of the week. So me and Nat are back tomorrow with the Friday Night Fan Forum. There'll be 5 or 6 of us on there. That'll be 7 o'clock. Saturday night, Ben and Matt, as always, Saturday Night Live. That'll be a Jane Ross appreciation show. And then Monday, we'll be back talking a bit more in depth regarding Preston Heath, about their season, and obviously giving them the send-off that they deserve as well. So thank you to everybody who's tuned in. We've had a lot of people watching. Please share, subscribe, like, and we shall see you all again very soon. Thank you, guys.
Hey.